This video is sponsored by Vtoman. So I'm here with the Vtoman Jump 1800 portable power station. This device is powered by lithium iron phosphate batteries, which means not only does it have the safety associated with lithium iron phosphate batteries, but it also means that the batteries themselves should last a long time. You should be able to charge this somewhere around 3,000 times or so, 3,000 cycles, and still be at around 80% of its original battery capacity. So lithium iron phosphate batteries are great. The Vtoman Jump 1800 is rated at 1800 watts of output, and that on paper should be enough to run power tools like this. However, power tools do take, like a chop saw and a table saw, they do take a lot to start up, a lot of wattage to start up. But this also has a surge rating of 3,600 watts, so 1,800 watts of continuous power and a surge to get devices started up to 3,600 watts. So let's test and see if this device can run a chop saw or a table saw. Okay, so I got safety gloves on, I got some eye protection, I'm going to put on ear protection, and then we're going to start here with the chop saw, plug that in, and see if it can cut through this particular board here, which is a 2x3. Okay, so this was able to cut through this just fine. Now, you probably noticed there that it took a while for it to get up to speed. I can definitely notice this has less power than when you're running it through a regular plug-in. And part of that reason is the device runs at just a little bit under 110 volts. So when you're running this at 110 volts instead of 120 volts, there's definitely a noticeable difference in power. So you could cut through less dense wood and probably not have a problem. But with like a 2x3 that has a pretty good dense grain, this is a dense 2x3, it took a little bit more effort and you had to be slower or else maybe it would have stopped. But with like cedar, a softer wood like that, you probably wouldn't have a problem. With that being said, let's now move over to this table saw and try that. Okay, I have on all my protective gear. Let me go ahead and plug this in. Got my push stick. Let's turn on the saw. So you can hear the power station does have the cooling fans on now because of course this does pull a lot of wattage when it's running. But it was able to cut through this cedar board, and this is a good thick cedar board, without an issue. I am impressed that this was able to power the chop saw and the table saw, and not all devices can do that, even if they put out 1,800 watts or so, because sometimes the inverter just can't handle that initial amount of power that's drawn by power tools. But this device can do it. Yes, it has a little less noticeable power than if you plug it into an AC outlet with 120 volts, but nonetheless, it can run those power tools, as I showed. Beyond that, I wanted to see if this device could continuously run 1,800 watts. So I did a test with a heater and a cooktop, and this device was able to run over 1,800 watts continuously without a problem. And when it came to trying to overload the device, it's interesting how this inverter works. Instead of just completely shutting off like most inverters do when you try to overload it, what this device actually did, and I put a kilowatt device on here to measure how much voltage was being put out, and what it does is it drops down the voltage to keep the wattage output roughly around that 1,800 or slightly above that. It drops that down to continuously try to power those devices. And the owner's manual does state that this technology that they call V-Beyond technology, it mentions here specifically, quote, it's suitable for resistive loads such as lights, space heaters, toasters, ovens, and coffee makers, etc. But please note that it's not suitable for complex electronics such as computers, TVs, refrigerators, etc. So you can run those devices on this, but not over its stated 1,800 watts. But when it comes to running resistive loads like resistive heaters and a cooktop, for example, like I was showing here, you are able to really kind of max that out. and it drops that voltage down. So that is interesting how this works. But nonetheless, it looks like the inverter does a pretty good job, because even when you don't try to overload it by a large margin, this device did show that it can run over 1800 watts, just a little bit over 1800 watts continuously without a problem. With that being said, I also did a discharge test. I actually did 2 discharge tests where I charged this up to 100%, connected the resistive heater to it, and let it run at a continuous 1300 plus watts until it went down to where it shut itself off, basically down to 0. Maybe not the true 0% for the battery, but till the device shut off. And it is able to run 1300 plus watts continuously from a 100% state of charge to a 0% or a nearer 0% state of charge without this device shutting off. So the cooling system seems to work just fine. However, I did want to mention that with those 2 tests, the first test, although this does have 1,548 watt hours of stated capacity, so a little bit over 1.5 kilowatt hours of stated storage capacity, unfortunately, it looks like the AC inverter and the cooling system is not super efficient. Because with my first discharge test, I was able to use around 1,170 watt hours of energy, which comes to an efficiency of around 75.6, meaning somewhere over 24% of that energy was used in converting the energy from DC to AC in order to use an AC device like a heater. And some of that, of course, it wasn't all inverter inefficiency, but some of that also went to the cooling fans to cool this device. So that's not a super great efficiency when it comes to the system here. In my second discharge test, I was able to get around 1,180 watt hours of energy out of this device, which equates to around 76.2% efficiency. So once again, pretty close to that first test result, but the AC inverter really isn't all that efficient. Now when it comes to the device itself, it has a nice sturdy cabinet, a big handle on the top, which makes it pretty easy to carry. And it weighs around 38.5 pounds. So it's not super light, but it's not so heavy that it's hard to carry around. When it comes to the layout of the front of this device, you do have a nice screen here. Easy to read. It tells you how much capacity is left. It tells you how many hours it can continue on at the current load. And the AC inverter is on. You can turn that on and off right there. You can turn on the USB ports right there, and you can turn on the DC ports right here with those buttons. So super easy to use, and when it comes to turning this device off, it actually has an auto off feature, so if you just turn off the AC inverter and just let it sit, it will automatically turn itself off. When you do have this under load, it will show you how much wattage is being pulled and how long it estimates you are able to run with that load. It's got USB-A ports, USB-C ports, 3 110 volt outlets. You have your 12 volt car outlet there, and you have 2 other barrel 12 volt ports there. Then you have your input ports here when it comes to inputting solar or the AC inverter power. And then over on this side, you have the port where you can connect an extension battery, and you can actually double the battery capacity of this by using the extension battery that you can purchase separately. And then you can buy a device from them for $30, and you can plug that into this port right here. And that allows you to actually charge up your 12 volt battery in your car and jumpstart your car that way. But that's a separate cord that you have to purchase, but it does have a port for that. So as you can see here, this did automatically turn off after a short period of time there when that was off. And then to turn it back on, you just touch the AC button there. Or you can probably do it with one of these other buttons as well, and then turn on the AC inverter. Usually it has the fan kind of come on, turns that off, and now the AC inverter is on and this is ready to use. And it's as simple as that to run this device. On the back here, it does have a built-in light with more than one brightness setting, and it's able to turn into a flasher. With that being said, let's move to charging. So first of all, you can charge this with solar. And Vtoman does offer solar panel options that you can purchase as a combo with this or separately. And you can plug that in and charge this via solar, and it can accept up to 400 watts of solar input to charge this device. When it comes to charging this device with an AC outlet, this comes with an AC to DC converter here, which is rated at 328.5 watts. When you plug this into the device, for most of the charging cycle, it's right around 300 watts of charging. So with that being said, on their website, it does say that this device can charge in around 4 hours, but At 300 watts of charging, which when I've tested it for most of the charging cycle, it's right around that 300 watts. That means it really takes around 5 hours to charge this. So expect if you run this down to, close to 0% and charge it to 100%, it's going to take you about 5 hours. And I wish it had this integrated in, but this does work. And do note that this also does get a little bit warm. I would prefer, once again, for that to be built in and for it to charge a little quicker, but it does get the job done, and you can expect, once again, a full charge in around 5 hours. And it's a pretty consistent charging curve. Once again, it stays right around that 300 watts. And a lower charging rate like that will probably extend the lifetime of the batteries in this. But nonetheless, other devices that I've tested charge a lot faster in less than half that. When it comes to warranties, Vtoman does offer a 24-month warranty for this device. However, there is a stipulation in this that I don't love. Part of the warranty looks great, but there's a stipulation for that warranty that I'm going to read directly from the owner's manual, which I don't believe is a good thing. The Vtoman warranty does not apply to battery cells. So that's interesting, that their 2-year warranty, 24-month warranty, does not apply to the battery cells. I just wanted to point that out as a potential concern because that's an interesting way to word the warranty there, that the battery cells are not covered. But with lithium iron phosphate batteries built into this, I don't think the batteries would be what would go out on the device. The AC inverter and all of that should be covered for 2 years. With all that being said, though, this device does live up to all its promises, and it is able to put out 1800 watts of continuous power. The inverter is not so efficient, but it does work completely fine. It's not that heavy. It does what it's supposed to. It works. It charges. I can't complain about all that. And it is priced quite well. Once again, right now on Amazon, you can get it for a little less than $600, and I will put the best available deal down in the video description for you. And I will have an Amazon affiliate link down in that video description, and if you buy it using that link, Amazon will give me a little bit of a commission at no extra cost to you, which does help support this channel. So if you do want to purchase this device, then I'll have that information down below. I do want to thank Vtoman for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you for watching all the way through to the end. Until next time, thanks for watching.